we're going to be talking more nerd stuff than ever. We're talking about conventions. We're talking about the industry that everybody loves. We're talking about comics. We're talking about superheroes. But we're talking about the places that people get together and like really celebrate this stuff. We have a very special guest today, and we're going to talk about that. We're going to see how their experiences in that industry, what they do going from kind of state to state, and how it all works on the back end. So stay tuned for the next episode of Press for Time. Now it's a party.
Woo.
Now we got everybody here.
That was a cool intro.
It was.
Thank
I
you.
forgot how bopping that was.
Yeah, I forget that I have the request from Tyler to kind of bring the bass down a little bit because it's not published other than for us. And he's like, every time he listens to it, his headphones have that haptic feedback. So he
Mhm.
said they just like shake his brain into oblivion. So
I mean, I enjoy that. So keep
So
the
it's
bass.
doing the right thing?
yeah. Well, I don't think most of us have the headphones that give you that extra oomph like a PlayStation controller. So
Got it. Yeah.
but either way, but thank you for the kind words. And again, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for coming on. I have my special co-host Monica with me. It's been a little bit, and we have a very awesome guest. Monica, would you like to introduce our guest since you're actually the one that brought us together?
Yeah, sure. Okay, this is Rich. I've known him for many years. We used to work at the comic store together, and now he does
Nice.
an amazing job where he works for Fan Expo. So it's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Thanks for having me. Somebody asked me to come on a podcast, Monica, and about what I wanted to do, what I do with my job. And I immediately said, I should probably drink for this. So I
Nice.
immediately made a drink. And I was like, okay, I can talk about what I do. Why not?
I like
Yeah,
how that
nothing
drink
wrong with that.
wasn't here before we started, and it just like magically materialized right there.
Yeah, it's
He's,
amazing.
he's sitting at the bar. The bar's
Yeah.
like right under him.
That's it. Yeah.
As we always do on the show, everybody, we keep the show very casual. We're really just about to connecting, that like-minded attitude of, hey, we're passionate about something, but for the most part, most of us don't have the time to do it every day. But then we have the awesome opportunity to meet people that get to do that. So we'd like to kind of get their perspective and, kind of share a little bit of what's not talked about all the time. Because you usually see from a content creator or a journalist kind of what their experience is, and then you kind of see the fan side. You don't usually see the in-between. So I think this is a great opportunity to do that. And as somebody that grew up in the world of comics, going to conventions from when I was a wee lad to where they are now, it's a big evolution, and I'd love to, pick your brain, Rich. And again, thank you for coming.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. I mean, pick away. I don't know. I actually was looking at the calendar today, and I'm like, oh, 2024. And I'm like, what's the policy on cursing on this show?
Oh, do
You're-
as much as
you're
you
okay.
want.
Yeah, the only show we have the toy closet where my co-host actually blatantly asked me to bleep them out, so I do it for fun, but curse
Nice.
away.
I will say, I saw 2024. I'm like, fuck, I've been doing conventions for 20 years. this year.
Wow.
Ah, damn.
Yeah, and my knees and my lower back remind me of that on a daily basis. But yeah, I got into doing the con stuff 2004, like right as soon as high school was over, and went running to Baltimore with a buddy of mine. He's like, we got to go do this, and I was like, okay, you're 17, you're just like, whatever, that sounds cool. Not realizing we're gonna end up sleeping in a car for 2 days.
Oh my God.
I was like, oh, none of this is planned. And he's like, no, we're just going. And I was like, and spending 2 days in a car in Baltimore, of all things, not ideal, especially when you're on the pier. If you're from Baltimore, now I look at it now and it's like, now people are coming to me like, hey, I want to be an exhibitor at a show, or hey, I want to vend at a show and I want to do this. And, for everybody who's watching, I'm the sales lead and exhibitor lead for Fan Expo, and my main show is actually in 2 weeks, and it's MegaCon,
Okay.
which is not a
Florida,
joke
right?
show. Yeah, the one in Orlando.
Nice.
So
Okay.
it's like this real, like, nice, like, full circle, just doing this for like the 9 to 5, saying I'll go for fun. Now it's just like I got to clock in. It's work now.
Yeah.
So it's a good
And
time.
that's, yeah, I was gonna say that's the part that a lot of people don't think about. You know,
Mhm.
we talk about, oh, I'd love to do what I love as my career. You know, that's the terminology, but
Sure.
people forget what goes into it. And
Yeah.
as a musician, I always worried about that. You know, it's like,
Mhm.
hey, it's tough to be a musician. It's You're writing music, especially if you're in the live music band era. You
Right.
know, no matter what year it was tough to be a musician because you're always competing, and there was never money in that industry for people that are just kind of doing it on their own unless you get that opportunity. You know, people forget that everybody that's doing that every day, they have that other feeling, which is the, oh, I got to do this. You know,
Yeah.
a musician waking up, oh, I got to write 10 songs today. You
Yeah.
know, it's a weird aspect, but it's important because at the end of the day, whatever we do, we're doing it in a routine, it gets exhausting. It becomes kind of Groundhog Day and monotonous. And, you know, whether you love it or not, you know, there's that good caveat of, I'm grateful that I can do this and not maybe what I used to do. So that's, you
Yeah.
know, how I see it. But do you feel
No,
that way at all?
I always I always compare it to like rap music in a way where it's like that first album is the I'm from the streets, please notice me, things are tough. And then the second album is the I made it, and hey, things are doing good and a little bit better. And then the third one's like, here's my mansion, here's my women, here's my 37 different cars and all that stuff. And oh, I'm about to have another platinum thing. And I'm just always like, right now I'm in that phase of the I made it kind of thing. Like, oh, here's this thing where, and opportunities and work and everything like that. And anything you do at the beginning is always dependent on somebody saying, yeah, sure, why not you? But then you got to keep that
Agreed.
spot, which is like a
Yes.
whole
Mhm.
different beast of its own.
Right. And staying relevant in an ever changing industry. Because
Right.
I mean, you know, it's the comic book world, but it's part of the entertainment industry in all ends of it because you're
Mhm.
dealing with movies, TV shows, cartoons, animes, books, comic books. So it's so many aspects, and it's grown, as you know, like over the
Yep.
years. I mean, I'm like I said, I'm showing my age where it was literally 19, probably 86, 87. My
Mhm.
dad would be, you know, driving up to New York City to like a hotel and bringing boxes and boxes of comics with
Mhm.
my mother to get ready to, you know, sell what he can. I remember like stories. He would just say to my mom, "Your goal is to sell 3 books. You sell 3 books, you can pack up and leave." Because
Wow. Yeah.
he was selling golden age books. So it was one of those scenarios where like you think about a golden age book now,
Oh
you
yeah.
know, it's mind
Mm.
blowing.
Oh
You
yeah. I
know,
mean, I always get a kick out of like whenever I see like an old movie or an old like photo or something, and there just happens to be comic books in the background, like zooming in, trying to see the prices. Like there was one I saw, I forget what it was from, but it was like there's an Amazing Fantasy 15 first Spider-Man there. I'm zooming in on it, it's like $20. So I'm like,
If only
yeah,
I could time travel.
buy all of them right now. Like, come
yeah,
on. So
aching to like to even think about that.
I
Yeah,
know, yeah. My favorite story about a Golden Age book I read about like 5 years ago was about an Action Comics one. And it was that somebody was remodeling their house. It was like a World War II era home, and they're remodeling the house. They rip down the wall, and there's this thing crumpled up being used as insulation in the wall, and it's an Action Comics one.
No.
But the thing is that it's so rare and hard to find.
doesn't
They,
matter the condition.
they got it pressed and cleaned, and it still went for like 150K.
Oh my
Imagine you're
god.
like remodeling your house and you just paid for it,
Yeah,
and then
exactly.
like immediately I'm like looking at the walls of like my house I was living in. And I was like, what year was this made?
Start
So,
Just
ripping down all the walls.
questioning your sanity and making sure that you're proactive to every approach.
oh my God, I
And
know.
it's
Yeah.
tough because I've talked about it in other shows where the industry for comics specifically was in such dire straits in the 80's and the 90's. Like it almost didn't make it. And
Yep.
that's where my dad was doing it and hustling and struggling. And, you know, to think back now, like, and see where it's become. Obviously, the movies are a kind of big kind of pivoting point where everything just got more available to everybody.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you know, you go to these conventions now, there's so much more. It's not just comics, it's cosplay, it's
It's anime, it's video games, it's the family thing. You think about conventions like even when I first started going 20 years ago, and it's like you're in the basement of a Marriott somewhere. Now
exactly.
you're in like giant convention centers and there's hundreds of thousands of people, as opposed to like you just pass the same 50 people that are in this room, and it's just such part of the culture now. Like everybody waits for things like San Diego to hear what their new movies are. Everybody waits for New York to hear what's the new TV show stuff. Rest in peace E3, when that used to be the huddle in your TV at June or the computer and be like, what games am I playing in the fall? So it's
Very
just
true.
so embedded as like just that cultural zeitgeist of it all now.
No, that's a good point. And the one thing I wanted to bring up with Fan Expo is Fan Expo had a different name prior, correct? Pretty much as far as how the show was handled and promoted, as far as I understand.
Oh God, probably. I don't know.
Because I mean, we mentioned offline that we have a mutual friend in Mr. Victor Dandridge.
Swagzilla, if you see him, he's the best dressed
I'm
man in
hoping,
comics through the work ethic.
right?
Right?
I mean, he's a little bit of everything, and we love you. And maybe you'll see this. I know you're a big supporter, and we appreciate it.
Oh, I'm gonna
But
message him after.
I messaged him yesterday, for the record, when he was at the airport. I don't know if you saw, he was having the airport delays. I said, "Were your ears ringing getting about to get on that plane?" He said, "Somebody talking about me." Sure enough. So
There you go. We love him.
yeah, he's an amazing person, and I met him through what before was Fan Expo, was Wizard World. So we're talking like 8-9 years ago or so.
So
And
Fan Expo bought Wizard World. That's the
there you
difference.
go. Okay, that's the clarification. That helps a lot. So that's cool, because when I was doing those shows, vending to promote my comic at the time, I feel like it was kind of dying down. The shows were struggling from what I saw, and that's a great opportunity. So it's awesome to see that it's revitalized in a different way too, because I've not been able to attend one yet, but I know that the one that's in the greater Philly Expo, I've heard nothing but good things, because I have a lot of friends that go there. Dude, I love that. I love that venue to begin with, because I have so many memories from Too Many Games and RetroCon. Like, I used to do those shows all the time. So, and I took my son to his first Monster Mania, which was there. So it's just been nothing but great memories.
It also helps that it's got one of the most famous like food venues right across the street, where it's just like get a Philly cheesesteak, and it's somehow wherever you get anywhere else in the world, it's the worst thing you've ever eaten, but you get in Philadelphia and you're like,
it's the best.
How is this the
you only
best
live once
cheese whiz I've ever had in my entire life? So
all right, so let's talk cheesesteaks. We'll segue real quick. Do you have a place that you prefer when you visit? Because everybody knows you got to pick one place, right?
So here's the thing: when I go visit, it's for work, and one of my favorite things to tell people about, like when I travel, they'll be like, "Oh my God, you're in Philly. What have you gotten to see?" I'm like, "Well, I got to see the convention center and the hotel."
Yeah.
And food that people bring to me usually, right?
And if I fly, I'm like, I can tell you what the airport, the convention center, and the hotel look like. So my favorite cheesesteak whenever I go to Philly is whichever one is open and closest to me at that moment.
Fair enough.
So that's
a good way of looking at it.
But I'm a cheese whiz guy, not a provolone guy.
Same here.
Really? I don't know how I feel about that.
Are you a with or without onions guy?
Yeah, onions.
Okay.
I gotta do onions and cheese whiz. I mean, that's like the classic way, right? Like provolone is delicious, but it's like I almost feel like I wouldn't want to waste provolone on such a sandwich.
That's fair.
Sense.
Right?
It melts well, and I think that's probably the biggest justification.
Oh, it's got the pull.
Yeah,
the pull is great. The cheese whiz
I'm
just goes straight to my arteries, and I just feel my left arm tightening up every time. Yes,
one bite. You have to shake your arm and get the circulation going again.
Yeah. Why are my fingers blue?
That's awesome. So with Fan Expo being the company that it is now and having shows pretty much all around the US, we have MegaCon, we have the regular Fan Expo, which is the Philadelphia. Is there like a bunch of other like mini shows that you do? Like, do you change the segments for each kind of theme, if you will?
So we have 15 shows. Philly is actually considered one of our smaller shows. So our big shows in Fan Expo, just for a little historical reference, is a Canadian-based company.
Okay.
They host Fan Expo Canada in August, which is Canada's version of San Diego Comic-Con. So
Okay.
you go to that show and it's like Warner Brothers is there and Netflix is there and Amazon's there, and it's like every movie celebrity is there, because that's the East Coast equivalent of that, and for that country. And so they have a bunch of other shows, like Calgary is a big show that they picked up, which is like on the Stampede grounds and stuff like that. So you're talking like 90,000 people going to that show.
Wow.
Vancouver is another one that they have now, which is like really big for the anime stuff. Happens to be in like one of those beautiful convention centers you've ever seen. For the stateside stuff, Orlando, of course, is the big one. Everybody, even if you've fleetingly heard of a convention, you've heard of MegaCon. Some of the other ones, I mean, Dallas is a big one for us. Denver, Chicago, we took from the Wizard World stuff, so now it's like crazy in 2022 when we did the Chicago one, and it's like, oh, this show is 50 years old.
It's crazy.
So it's wild when it's like you first get into it and you're like, oh, this show's been going on for like 10 years and stuff like that. Now it's like a 30-year show, or it's like a 40-year-old show, or 50, with something like Chicago.
Right.
I also think that convention center that they go to in Chicago, and I'm sorry, the one, the Rosemont, is one of the ugliest friggin' buildings I think I've ever seen in my life.
Oh my God.
I've never been out there.
I've been to Rosemont once for a convention, but I basically spent the whole weekend just eating the Chicago style pizza, and I barely went to the convention.
There you go. So you have the exact opposite thing that I have to deal with when I go. Because it's like I'm in that convention center and everybody's great, right? Everybody's super sweet. But they did this really weird thing, like, how they say if you want a room to look bigger, you paint it white and it makes the room look bigger, or an off-white. The ceiling of this convention center is black.
Oh my God.
So it's like dark, the lights are off, black. So that ceiling, which is probably like 40 feet high, looks like it's like you could reach your hand up and touch it. You know what I mean? So it's just like one of those places, and you're looking up like, what the fuck were they thinking? So, but yeah, I mean, 15 shows for Fan Expo, and it's just like they're just massively growing every year. Like,
which is awesome.
They keep thinking, oh, we're going to hit this glass ceiling on stuff. I mean, MegaCon alone, we have over 160,000 people that went to that last year.
Wow.
And this year, our ticket sales are up from last year. So it's like, it's asses to elbows in the whole joint. It's fantastic. We love it. And everybody seems to have fun, which is the most important thing.
Agreed. And it's great because a lot of these shows are good for all ages. You can bring kids and, the kids embrace the cosplayers. That's like the big thing that, it's, I don't want to say it's new, but compared to shows back in the day, my era, it was comic books. Now it's everything. To see somebody dressed up would have been mind-blowing in the 90s. Like when they eventually started doing that, it's like you put the time to like make that come out of the comic. Now it's like it's almost expected, But
even like that too, like back when like cosplays first started becoming like a thing, it was very much just like you put it together yourself. Like you bought like cheap supplies and put it together. Now it's like this EVA foam, like everything looks exactly like it does in the video games and like in the comic books,
which is mind blowing.
Crazy now, yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean, when I was younger, the only time I really could even say I saw something like close to a cosplayer is like going to like a Star Wars movie and somebody sitting in the theater with you dressed as a Jedi. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Now it's like I'll be walking, like if I'm at New York Comic Con, and I always laugh because I'm with my buddy. It's his first New York Comic Con. We're sitting there. We're at a Five Guys. Like we're talking like 20 blocks away from this convention.
Yeah.
And we walk in, and there's like Iron Man and the Hulk and the whole Avengers and stuff like that. And there's a Batman, and he's got the movie accurate cape with the cowl, like, just like Christian Bale. Whereas it's like me dressing up was like Halloween, and wearing a Batman mask that said Batman on it, you know?
Exactly,
So it's
yeah.
like,
They had just the one rubber band that went to the back of your ears.
exactly.
Your ears would be all red when you took it off.
It broke and it was over, man. It's like you couldn't make a kid more sad than if that mask broke. So
And you'd know because you'd hear that snap and then that moment of silence.
yeah,
And then the cry right after.
there goes. You just see a cape and just like, oh, all right, there it goes.
No, that's really awesome though. It's cool to see it grow. And again, just to speak for the sake of the average fan that like knows conventions, when it comes to knowing them, people know New York Comic Con, for example, or like you said, San Diego Comic Con. But
Right.
it's nice to see that expansion and people are actually talking about it. So it gives more opportunity, expanding upon other aspects of passion. So for example, some cons in the world of video games are like video game centric. Like I mentioned, Too Many Games. There's Rest in Peace E3, but like, that was more press related. But do you see like the potential of maybe Fan Expo revisiting other types of media versus the traditional kind of route of, comics, anime, movies?
So what I think Fan Expo's been doing very well, and it's definitely expanded upon lately is gaming and stuff like that, and trying to touch every fandom, because initially I was like, well, why don't we do like a video game convention here? Like I remember we're sitting in like Edmonton, how they got me over to Canada to go to Edmonton, which I was like, I'm sitting there like, ugh. And I'm like, well, what about doing something different? And they're like, well, you don't understand. Like, this is their New York Comic Con. This is where they get to see everything. So we try to put as much of it, here as we can.
Within it.
So it's like, even for MegaCon coming up this year, we sat down for a week and we're talking video games, and I'm that guy who grew up on like, I want to do nostalgia and new things. So, and I'm not really like the JRPG guy. I'm more of like, dude, get the 2 Spider-Man guys, get Yuri Lowenthal, get Najee Jeter, get Tony Todd. You know what I mean? The dude was Venom in the game. He's Candyman. How are people not going to love that? But then I get another guy next to me who's like, what about some of the cast from Baldur's Gate? Like that's a big one that came out, and they announced Neil. Oh God,
Neil Newbon.
Neil Newbon. And
thank you, Monica.
He's one of my favorites.
I know. That's why I looked at you.
Yeah. So they announced Neil, and everybody went nuts and stuff like that for Neil. And I'm like, hey, you learn something every day. I think in it's a Comic-Con. You get Spider-Man and everybody's gonna be like, hey, let's do that. You know what I mean? But then there's so many other people that it's like, now it's like, oh, we do want to represent those people. We do want to touch those things, and it's been very cool. That and the video game expansion part of it's been fantastic on that front.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So, Monica, I had a question, but I want to give you an opportunity. I know I've been talking a lot.
Oh no, I'm just listening in. I was just gonna mention too, because like when I started going to conventions, I think it was like 2003 or 4 or something like that, and it was all like I went to anime conventions, but I always went dressed as like video game characters, and there were not a lot of video game people there, but I show up in my Resident Evil cosplays. And it's crazy now. I go to any convention, whether it be like a Comic-Con or I go to like an anime convention. It's like so many video game people there. One of my friends actually is going to go to the convention in Orlando. Probably she goes every year, and she's always dressed as Lady D, and she's got like the 3D printed claws and everything like that.
Oh,
so
awesome.
yeah, I just think that's pretty awesome. Like now it's like it's much more like a mainstay in like the culture than it was like 20 years ago.
Yeah. I mean, the gaming more than anything, and I figured like, hey, let's hang out on the gaming stuff, right? Because it's one of those things that I have not seen any medium explode over 20 years like video games. Not even in the sense of what people are into, but just even like I have my PlayStation 5, and I was they put on if you guys have like the premium and all that other stuff for PlayStation Plus, they put on Star Wars Episode 1. for
Yes.
PS1. And
Oh, they're
just
doing like the
Yeah.
retro stuff. Oh, nice.
Yeah,
Right.
they're saying they're remastered, but you're just being able to play them on PS5,
Yeah,
Right.
which
but
They,
just
they did the same thing with the
ported.
Resident Evil game. So yeah.
Right. It's
day
ported,
one.
it's upscaled, and I put it
Mm.
on and I was like,
Yeah.
Jesus, this game is ugly as sin, you know? And then I throw on like Alan Wake 2, and I'm just like, it's like I'm there, you
I
know?
know. Do you remember back in the day though when those games first came out? You're like, these graphics are amazing. It looks so real. And now you play
Yeah.
them and you're like, oof. And then like the voice acting, which I love. I love the really cheesy voice acting, but it's like 10 times different than like now. Like speaking of Alan Wake 2, they put Alan Wake on Dead by Daylight and Matthew Peretta is voicing it. And
Yep.
it's like I just listen to voice tracks and it's just him screaming because he's dying. And I'm like, oh
Mm.
my God. It's so
It's
intense.
awesome. But that's a big thing
hobby
too.
to have.
Yeah.
What's
Well,
that?
to
At
get
least
hired
you
to just
die.
do screaming
Just to
lines, pretty
scream.
much.
Yeah, death screams. Perfect.
Well, I
It's
was
the
going to say
ringtone on my phone.
the world of collaboration is huge,
Mhm.
and I
Mhm.
would say mostly in part to video games. You know, you think about, I would say the strong winner in this is Fortnite. Fortnite
yeah.
is the closest to creating this Ready Player One world that we've seen and read books about. But you know, to be able to really take those licenses is really surreal. And
Right.
again, I think it's bringing people together because like Fortnite brought me and a friend closer than
Mhm.
ever thanks to the pandemic.
Yeah.
But you know, again, just being able to like touch on all that, that also expands to the world of these conventions because then they're going out there, they're dressing up maybe as a character from a movie or a game, but
Mhm.
their inspiration came from Fortnite. And it's like, oh my
Right.
God, I love RoboCop now because he was
Right.
in Fortnite and he's doing the gritty. You like, you know,
Right.
it's
Exactly.
amazing.
But you go to a show and you'll hear about like, oh, we're gonna have our Xbox Live party meetup or whatever. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And all that stuff. It's a very gaming, especially if you do the stuff like Fortnite or your Call of Duties or even Dead by Daylight. It's a very communal experience. It's like being able to hang out. You know what I mean? Which is
Yeah.
fantastic, especially during COVID. Like, you know, the amount of crap games I tried just because I couldn't go anywhere. You know what I mean? And the amount of great games too. Like, you know, crap game. I sat there and played 30 hours of Marvel's Avengers, which was, you know,
My
after a while,
condolences.
Yeah, I haven't heard great things about it.
it's
I'm not a fan.
it,
I'm a
it
I'm a
wanted
Marvel nut.
yeah, it wanted to be something good, and it's like me trying to bake. I had a great idea, and then I made
You
it.
gotta go to Monica.
I mean, I was
Monica's
about to say, I don't think I've ever had anything that you baked before, Rich. I think like I've been always the one to bring the baked foods.
So well, Monica's one of the best baker I've ever met. I on the other side of that, I had a day off from work, and I'm just such a workaholic and stuff with things. So I'm like, I'm gonna try baking something because I had nothing to do. I'm just sitting at home, and I'm like, oh, fuck, what do I do? So I didn't read how to make banana bread. Instead, I saw these are the ingredients you need, and I'm like, that's it. That's all I need.
Oh my God.
Didn't pay attention to times or nothing. My butter emulsified completely out of the bread. I'm like, why is the bread leaking? You know what I mean?
My baking heart hurts so much right now.
And that is Marvel's Avengers.
I like the tie in there. Perfect.
That's really good. I love that. That was perfect. Listen, I wanted to like it. I wanted to love it, but it was a chore to play. And once they put Spider-Man in there and the fact that he swings 2 inches from the floor, you know,
It was
and
like,
it's just the same. It was very repetitive too.
It was like the PS1 Spider-Man. Like
Yes.
would have much better swinging. Like he
I
barely
mean,
went like
the
40
PS1
feet
Spider
over.
didn't it have Bruce Campbell as like the narrator of it?
That's the
Wasn't that
movie. The
No,
first
the game
no,
though,
you're talking about the '90s one, right? The
I'm talking
'90s
about the
game
one from
from the
2000
cartoon.
where Stan Lee was the narrator.
Yes, from the
Oh, okay,
cartoon.
okay.
I think
Yeah.
the box was the cartoon.
Oh, okay. I'm like, there definitely was. I think it might have been a PS2 game that like Bruce Campbell was the narrator for
So
Spider-Man.
Bruce Campbell
was the movie
was
one.
the intro narrator for all three of the movie games.
Ah, okay.
Right.
That's the one I played.
Yeah, and those were great. You know, Spider-Man
Good old
2.
Toby.
Yeah. Oh my God. I've
Spider-Man
never
2 changed the game, literally.
It did, but I gotta tell you, nothing about that Spider-Man's interesting.
No.
In that, he's just like I have to stop, Doc Ock. And it's just like, ah.
Well,
He tried
at
his
that time,
best.
he's so lucky that sandbox of a city was at the fingertips, because it
Oh, yeah.
changed how we all play games now, which is insane.
Right.
You know?
I mean, I doubt Tobey Maguire ever thinks about his voice performance in that game, but for that lived rent-free in my head for like a long time. You know what I mean? I'm just like,
See a
you got
chump.
paid for this. Paid, you know?
Yeah.
Well, remember, I don't know if you do remember, early movie tie-in games, a lot of times they didn't want to pay them for a second role. So a lot of times they would just take
Yep.
clips from the movies, and sometimes it
Mhm.
just wouldn't fit.
Oh, no.
It was just forced dialogue at that point.
What was it? There was like the 2005 Batman Begins game. I loved the movie tie-in games too.
They have a Batman Begins game?
So it's
Yeah,
kind
it
of
was
like
GameCube.
it's like, what if it was GameCube, Xbox, PS2, and it was basically like, let me tell you what Arkham is, but I'm drunk. You know what I mean?
Perfect.
And it's like Christian Bale is like, you can hear he's like kind of fed up talking. So like, instead of cutscenes, it's just like, here's movie clips. Here's movie clips taking you
Perfect.
to the next section. And I was so pissed because when I bought that game and started playing it, I beat it in like a day, because movie tie-in games, were they 2 hours, two and a
Yeah.
half hours?
Yeah, if you're lucky.
And it like spoils the whole end of the movie. It's like, spoiler alert for anyone who hasn't seen it, God forbid, that Liam Neeson is like Ra's al Ghul at the end of the movie. I was like, what the fuck? Like, I got
Because the game came out before the movie.
tomorrow.
That's right, because I forgot the game came out first.
Yeah, so that
Yeah.
one was on me. I should have showed a little patience, but you know, but the gaming convention culture, like, just to like kind of circle it and tie it all back together, it's wild when you like talk to people about like superheroes at conventions or something, and they're like, as opposed to like Christian Bale's my Batman, or you know, animated series Batman, but they'll be like Arkham Asylum Batman is my Batman, Arkham City Batman, you know, the new Spider-Man, hey, that's my Spider-Man, you know. So it's this wild thing of like, when video game versions of popular characters are now becoming like definitive versions,
Right.
which is
It
a
speaks
wild
to the character. Yeah, it really
Yeah,
does.
it really
Especially
does.
Spider-Man, because you know we've had some great Spider-Man over the years in
Yeah.
multiple forms, in animated form, movie form,
Yeah,
you know. And then you had the Spider-Verse, which gave you even more to love. Nick
yeah.
Cage, you know, like Nick
Oh my
Cage is
God.
awesome, and then you gotta love him as Spider-Man. I
Oh,
mean,
yeah.
I prefer him destroying animatronics, honestly. That's
What
just
was that? The Wally's World,
Wally's
Wally's
Wonderland.
Wonderland.
I love it. I'm a
He
sucker
doesn't
for it.
say one word in that entire movie.
That's why it's great. I like him when he doesn't talk.
Oh my god.
Oh, I love
I mean,
it when Nick Cage talks.
I like Mandy, but Mandy is like the slowest burn of a movie I've ever seen. I literally had to fast forward to just be like, oh, okay, something else happens, so it's worth getting through.
Yeah.
But the beginning is just like a chore, and I'm like, oh my god, say something, do something that's not just this, you know.
Yep.
And then
Yeah.
once he kicks ass, he kicks ass.
Did either of you see The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent yet?
So good. I watched it so many
It's a good
times.
movie.
Oh my, you have to. Pedro Pascal is in it. It's
Yeah,
Nick
I
Cage.
mean-
It's absolute genius. Highly recommend it.
So
I'll add it.
I live with the girlfriend, and I'm like, we should try this movie, and she's like, I fucking hate Nick Cage. And I'm
He's
like,
so good
I mean,
in the movie.
You either love him or hate him, honestly.
I put out like the first 10 minutes of Face Off, and I'm like, how can you hate this guy? And
Yeah,
she's like,
that movie's a classic.
he's like, with a passion. And I was like, damn. So I put on this movie, and she's just like, that was really good. And I was just like, see, Nick Cage. And she's like, no, Pedro Pascal. I'm like, I'll take it, whatever.
Yeah.
Screw it.
Still-
I mean,
we still
it could have
watched
been
it.
worse. She could have made her watch The Flash and watch him as Superman.
We did what we went to see so she's a giant comic fan, I'm a comic fan, so I went to see The Flash in the theater, and
Yeah, so did I. Sorry to hear that.
I
I've
don't think
never
I-
seen it yet, so
I don't think I've gone back to the movie since. You know, I was like,
There's
Just
not
because
enough
you didn't have time,
soap.
or just like, no, I can't do this anymore.
There's not enough soap to clean your body after seeing that.
nah. I mean, there's aspects of that movie that, like, again, like my banana bread. What a great idea!
Yeah,
Yeah,
You
but
know?
I feel like it was just like a
Poorly
WB
executed.
thing, just coming in and just fucking everything up.
Yeah.
They're in a very, very tight space with whatever options they have, which is not much at this point, I feel. I think that's a definitely scary tangent that we can go into.
Yeah,
But
I feel like that might be because I have a lot of opinions on
yeah.
that.
That is the slipperiest of slopes.
It really is.
Yeah. So
The only thing I'll
yeah.
say is, like, I hope Superman Legacy is good. That's, you know,
I'll say right now, I'm probably honestly not gonna watch it. I just like have no interest in like who's the guy they recast? Like, no offense to him, but I don't want like Wish Henry
David
Cavill.
Cornsweet or
Like, I'm
something.
okay.
Oh, you
He
like Henry
really-
Cavill?
I like
he
Henry
looks so
Cavill.
He looks so much like him.
He looks. He's
I love
Superman to
Henry
me.
Cavill. I loved Henry
Yeah.
Cavill. Henry Cavill had the same problem that like Pierce Brosnan's like James Bond did. You know what I mean? It's like, here's a dude who could play James Bond. That dude looks like James Bond. What is this fucking script you gave him? What the hell is going on? You know what I mean? Like,
And
and
it
that's
becomes
what
his
Henry
fault.
Cavill was saddled with. Like, Man of Steel, I love that movie.
Yeah.
Batman Superman is a attempt at a really good Batman movie, saddled with like the shittiest Superman movie you've ever seen.
Yeah, well, I won't go into it because it's I ranted about this
As we're
before.
going into it,
I know, but like
We
it's
talked about
really
it
the
too,
edits
yeah.
and stuff like that that really
Right.
like made it absolutely horrific. And then like with Justice League, again, the edits, like,
You
yeah.
can blame Joss Whedon the first time.
I'll say thumbs up on the Snyder cut. I like the Snyder
Yeah,
cut.
oof,
Yeah,
I love
I've grown
it so
to
much.
appreciate it. The first time it was a lot. I was
Yeah.
overwhelmed, but I was also just beat up with like, are we going anywhere with this? You know, like it's great to do, but it's like when you put out a movie or a product, that you have to put out a definitive version. You're
Mhm.
not just tell the story the way it's intended the first time. You know,
Right.
I know there's a lot of caveats. I know there's a lot of legal that
Yeah.
goes in, and Warner Brothers doesn't like to let people do what they want, and I get that.
Right.
But lesson learned, I would think. Now you realize you're not doing so well with that.
Well, I mean, not lesson learned, because David Ayer, who did Suicide Squad, he's on Twitter all the time, just being like, "That's not my version." And then finally,
he said,
yeah,
it's done.
finally, he's just like, "I'm done." He's like, "I don't want to do it anymore. I don't want to work with them anymore." He's like, "I'm good. That's it."
Yeah. Well, I
We'll
think
never get
time,
that cut.
We won't.
Did you see the note that Zack Snyder released after he had his big blow up with Warner Brothers and stuff? And he's like, these are the people I'm dealing with. And he put up a note, and the note is talking about Man of Steel, and they're saying, oh, in this scene that we want to do, we're going to use Superman's spaceship that he came to Earth in, and we're going to use it to send every Kryptonian into the Phantom Zone. And the note back from Warner Brothers said, like, well, if you destroy his ship, how's he going to get back to Krypton? And I'm just sitting there like,
no. Those are the people
like,
that are running this. Oh my god, awful.
I'm like, Warner Brothers. I'm like, there are children that I could be like Superman. They'll be like, Krypton blew up, right? And you're like,
yeah.
So
my kid's not a superhero fan, and I'm pretty sure he knows that his planet does not survive.
Right. It's disappointing that you just know. You know what I mean? You don't remember where you learned it, but you know it.
It's a pop culture reference that is just like, it's the staple to any. You don't have to be a fan, but again, Warner Brothers is a tangent on its own, and it's really sad to even bring that up at this point. But what I wanted to ask you, when it comes to these shows, because it's really important, you have guests, right? You have guests from all different parts of the industry.
Yep.
Are you part of that collaborative process? You did mention that names getting dropped. Like, are you part of that discussion where like you can kind of give your input on who you feel might be a fit? You know, like, do you have a team dedicated to making those decisions?
So to give an idea of what my actual role at Fan Expo is I am a account manager. Now, what that does for this company is that when you walk into a show and you see all the retailers and all of your Artist Alley people, I place those, I vet those applications. I'm the one who's like placing them on the floor. So I work on the entire layout. We do have a guest team that works with our president and a whole committee of people that work on celebrities, animation guests, you know, your anime people. I work volunteer, actually, because I'm one of the only people in the company that plays video games. So I'm on the video game voice actor committee of things. So I'm able to at least have some input into that aspect of it. All these other things, like at MegaCon, we've got Tom Hiddleston and Ewan McGregor
I
and Hayden
saw that. That's awesome.
and
Really
even
cool.
Short Round, and all that stuff. And it's like, that's amazing guests. I want no part of those conversations.
That's probably a lot of work, I can imagine.
That's a lot of late night phone calls and contract negotiations that, quite frankly, it's like, what I mean?
No, I get
That would
that.
be the equivalent of explaining calculus to a toddler right now. I would have no idea what the hell's going on. But with the video games, I enjoy that aspect. I do work with our comic team, suggesting guests, and I do work on, and what I used to do, and when I used to work with Monica as well, is I work on the exclusives that the fans can buy from the show as well. So your comic book variants, your t-shirts and stuff like that. Like, that's all stuff I work with that team, and they saw what I used to do at my old job when I used to work at Midtown Comics. Of the exclusives we would make, they let me kind of have free reign with that, and that is probably the most fun I have doing the job, is just being able to creatively say, if I'm going to do a Spider-Man book, what do I want? You know what I mean? Like, what do I want on this cover? And that is
awesome.
probably the best part of the job, that I'm like, I'll do that part for free. That's great.
So I was going to say, I saw the variant for Ultimate Spider-Man 2, and that's a really nice looking cover from what that advertisement is. So thank you in advance for that. That's really, really awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it's really awesome in that aspect. When you have these connections of being reached out to by like Marvel and DC, and DC is actually so phenomenally easy to work with. Like, last year we did a reprint of Batman 423, which was the Todd McFarlane Batman cover. Everyone knows that one. Batman, he's like holding the girl in the cape, is doing the McFarlane cape thing, and we reprinted that, and as a foil, because foils are the thing again. At a time when your family was selling comics in the 80s and 90s and all that stuff, did you ever think foils would be the thing again? So here we are. The commence old is new again. And
it was a big gamble.
Yeah. I mean, like, comics in the 90s was a wild time, right? Like, it was holograms, it was foils, it was speckled, it came in a poly bag, it came like, bronzed and gold and all this other stuff, and everybody's like, it's over, comics are done. And here we are, like 2023, and everybody's like, yo, can I make it a foil?
And it's crazy. It's funny that you mentioned the bronzing, and I remember that a lot of reprints, back then they would be like, oh, we have a hit, let's reprint it, not thinking obviously the longevity of it. And it's like, oh, let's put out Cable's first appearance, let's make it bronze colored. And people are like, why? But now it's in crazy demand for it.
And there's always this, and comic books and conventions and all these things. First, I'll say, like, as far as doing the variants, you got to be new but familiar, and with the guests and everybody, because it's all nostalgia. You know what I mean? You're really capitalizing, like Batman and Superman and Spider-Man. These are nostalgic properties, things that are there that you want to see grow up with you to a certain point. Like, as I'm getting older, I'm like, I can deal with Superman being a dad and having 2 kids and stuff like that, because to me, Superman's always going to be older than I am, whereas like Spider-Man, I'm like, he's 16, he's 15, when you start aging him up and giving him kids, like, really makes my hip hurt. You know what I mean? So the nostalgic aspect of these things, of being able to tap into what made you fall in love with that character and capitalize on that again. It's the same thing with our guests. Like, you bring in somebody like Tom Hiddleston. It's like, yeah, dude, I love the Loki show, but you're always going to remember that first time you saw him in Thor or the Avengers and stuff like that. And 10 plus years ago now, oh God, Ki Wan, Short Round. It's like great in the Loki show, great in Everything Everywhere All at Once. But again, you always go back to Indiana Jones. Goonies. You know what I mean? So it's with all these things, you tap into your yesteryear to be able to be like, I want to feel that again. And I'm guilty of it too. I love that. I collect all comic books and art and all that other stuff. And it's like, I'm just chasing wanting to feel like I'm 4 again. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We don't
So,
like the idea of aging. We're gonna always be kids at heart, and I think
yeah.
that's what makes being a fan of this stuff. It's just remarkable because everybody in our age groups are like just big kids,
Yeah.
but it's we grew up with some of the best properties. You know, when you think about it, it's
Right.
all of this stuff has lasted the test of time already, and is going to continue to evolve. And you know, I had a great opportunity to meet Kevin Smith once. He had
Mm.
a it was when he was doing the show for the Comic Book Men. He
Yep.
did a contest on Facebook for New York Comic Con, and they said, "Oh, we're going to pick a bunch of people to go on a little bus." That they drove around the city, and he just talked on the roof of the bus. And I was able to raise my hand and ask a question and talk to him. And I told him about my dad. And the biggest thing that I look at with him is he is one of those few people that believed in the comic book store well before anybody else did. That
Yep.
model and the concept of comic books, and now everybody embraces it like it's the coolest thing ever. You know,
Oh,
like
yeah.
that. Such what a feeling, you know, to get that contrast of, oh, you're into comic books, into like, oh, dude, me too. You know.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, when I first started doing conventions, we started doing this thing. We started getting into this thing. And I don't know if you know about CGC. I know Monica's heard me talk about CGC and all that stuff. So in 2006, like we started really diving into the idea. Like me and my buddies were doing CGC stuff, and we caught the attention of Stan Lee. And Stan Lee started being like, why don't you know? And we're talking like fast forward to like 2011, 2012. Stan Lee's like, you guys come with me and do the CGC grading for me. So you know, one of the first show, my first MegaCon was 2016. Down there was Stan Lee. You know what I mean?
Awesome.
And but you're talking to Stan, and you're just like, he's everything you thought he would be. You know what I mean? Like it's not an act. Like this is it. This is who he is. Do you mind if I tell you a quick Stan Lee story? That
Yeah. Go
Yeah.
ahead. Yeah.
so we're like, well, it's when Comixology and stuff's coming up, right? And they're talking
Okay.
about digital comics. You know, and
Got it.
Stan, he's just sitting with a whole bunch of us, and he's just like, guys, comics are a lot like women's breasts. And he's like, they look great on a screen, but you want to hold them in your hands.
So wise.
Amazing.
And I'm looking around like, I'll never
Did I
buy a
just hear
digital
that?
comic in my life, Stan. I'll never do it. So, but he was just like, he loved every aspect of everything involving meeting people and talking to them and stuff. And you know, he would just always enjoyed everything, always good for a laugh, you know, always. And got to a point where Stan would see me and be like, Rich, how you doing? And shake my hand. And I'm like, fuck, you know.
It's surreal.
Yeah,
Right?
it's like, all right, I'm gonna just use myself because I'm Roman Catholic. Like, imagine going to the Vatican and the Pope is the one who's like, I'm gonna walk you around for a little bit. That's what it's like being with Stan on a convention floor. It's like royalty, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
So, and then that opened the door to working with people like Todd McFarlane and John Romita Jr. and Senior, and just like meeting all these people in succession, Joe Sinnott and Neil Adams and all these people. Neil Adams was terrible first experience I did to myself with Neil Adams. Neil has his wall of art set up. I don't realize he's there. And my buddy's like, what do you think about this stuff? I'm like, it's all right. And all of a sudden, Neil turns around, his blue shirt and Superman tie, because I'm trying to be cool, right? You're trying to be cool. Like, you don't want, we all walk that fine line no matter who we meet. Of like, I don't want to seem like a total fucking nerd. You know what I mean? So I want to be cool.
Sometimes it's hard. Sometimes you have to wear your emotions on your sleeves.
You gotta just read the room before you say anything. And I say, it's all right. And Neil Adams is like, I'm fucking Neil Adams. What do you mean it's all right? It's great.
Yeah.
Wow. That's
So
incredible. Yeah.
I just sat there. I'm like, I am going to get myself on Neil Adams' commission list so that Neil likes me.
Yeah.
So I got a Neil Adams sketch, but I'm pretty sure he didn't like me.
Oh no.
Sorry to hear that.
No, it's fine. Neil's one of those
Yeah.
people. It's like by the next time he's like, hey, dude. It's just like money. If you have money, Neil loved you.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah,
It's the name
transactional.
of.
He knew his
I was
worth.
just gonna say, business is business. Yeah,
Business
I
is
get that.
business. He knew his worth. He was never unpleasant unless you gave him a reason to be.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, to go from that and seeing the new guys at the time who were like, Jim Lee's established, but Jim Lee's not Jim Lee. You know what I mean? He's not like running DC Comics Jim Lee. He's
Right.
guy at a table doing $75 full body sketches. Very approachable. Now it's like Jim Lee's like curtained off.
Mhm.
Yes.
Now he's
You
only
know.
doing the sketches like on Twitch, and there's like hundreds and hundreds of people watching him.
Yep.
And I got to meet him in New York City when he worked for Marvel, and he signed one of the Marvel cards for me that unfortunately I've lost the time in moving.
No.
Yeah.
But just to be able to meet him, my dad introduced me to him because he knew him, and it was just like, I'm like, you drew like my favorite iteration of X-Men ever, like, and I was like 7 or 8 years old at the time, and I was just like flabbergasted.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, your dad's so cool. I'm like, oh my god.
He's
Yeah,
one
so
of the few people I actually like nerded out on. So we hosted him for a signing at Midtown Comics. It was in December of 2019 for his hardcover book. It had just snowed, and Jim's like, I'm available from 11 a.m. till 1 p.m. I got something going on in the evening, so I'm like an 11 a.m. signing on a fucking Thursday. I don't know how it's gonna go. And the people showed up, but I'm like in the back with Jim. I'm gonna go off like, bro, I had the X-Men 1 poster on my fucking wall. I'm saying like every nerdy thing. And then I'm like, you want to do a Superman sketch for me real quick, maybe, if that's cool with you. And he did. I now have like 3 Jim Lee sketches because now Jim knows me. My biggest nerdy like social media moment was like, Jim Lee is following you on Instagram. And I was like, what?
You're shaking as you're like turning your screen on.
Yeah, I'm like, no, that's like a fake account, right? And I'm like, so
Was it pre-X when everybody like every account's fake now?
I can't do Twitter, X, and I love that now it's like X, formerly known as Twitter. You know what I mean? That's how they announced it.
Yeah, and Prince is rolling in his grave.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, oh,
Terrible.
But social media is like I doom scroll. I watch the news probably more than anybody with reasonability and accountability should. I'm just like working.
It's not a good time. It's not a good time to watch the news.
No.
Well, I mean, like,
Spoiler alert.
What time is? It's like no news is good news. So it's like, why would you ever have the news on? But I work from home, so I'm just like always typing on the computer. I'm looking up like,
what's going on?
Doomed. All of us doomed.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go back to that comic world where things are a lot more, monsters and aliens taking over. That's more grounded nowadays.
Oh my god! I mean, I feel like I could turn on like CNN or MSNBC, and it could start with every news broadcast could start with the Game of Thrones theme, and it would totally fit. You know what I mean? It would just be like,
I mean, we are talking about 10-foot aliens in Florida now, so.
Oh my god! Well, I mean, Florida. I love going to Florida because Florida to me is like, I describe it as the international waters but on land. Everything's legal. There's like my favorite Florida man woman story was like, woman blames high winds of blowing 5 pounds of cocaine into her purse.
I believe it.
And I'm like,
yeah, and there's lots of those stories.
I'm like, a lot of hurricanes in Florida. I don't know. You know what I mean? So, I don't know. Did you hear about that Florida Joker thing for Grand Theft Auto 6?
Grand Theft Auto? Oh yeah.
I haven't heard
you heard about this?
He's getting nothing.
Benny, you tell Monica about the Florida man, the Florida Joker.
Yeah, so you've seen the trailer for Grand Theft Auto 6 yet?
Yeah, I have, yeah.
So they show all the different the idea behind that is every little segment is like a homage to like real incidents and real things that went viral, like the person with the alligator, like all of that. And then there was like one criminal that had tattoos and like dyed hair looking kind of like the Joker.
Mm-hmm.
There's a real life Joker like character, that person that was arrested, and he pretty much saw the trailer. He went on social media and he's like, "You're going to give me $6 million. You using my likeness." And he just, I still haven't heard from you, Rockstar. It's going to be 10 million. Like he just keeps demanding money.
Wow. I mean, you know what? You know what? Maybe this is why Rockstar is trying to sue Remedy right now. They're like, we got to get that money to pay him.
Well, that's the thing too. This guy's in his backyard, right? And he's like, Rockstar, I want $5 million. But like he's going about like, I wanted 30 days. And you're like, this is
like he's got ransomware, like he's got something on them. He's got nothing. And the best is just some of the voice actors start slamming him. They just start laughing.
Really?
Like, do you realize who you're talking to?
Yeah,
they got that kind of lawyer money. Like it's not happening.
Yeah,
you know, it's
if Rockstar used me in a video game and I got hit by like a bus, I'd be like, dude, I got hit by a bus in a Rockstar game. Like, you know what I mean? Like
exactly. Awesome. You would like capitalize on it. It's like, oh, there's that dude, and then like join like whatever TikTok and get paid a bunch of money.
Yeah, I would change my social media to like @roadkill in GTA.
Exactly. Yeah.
So,
well, that was the voice actors were saying like, you should be more creative in thinking of how to use the notoriety at this time instead of begging for money. Like you'd be like, yo, I'm in GTA. Like, go ahead, make money.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
lost opportunity.
Lost opportunities.
Listen, if I found myself in a game that I didn't approve, I'd be like, there's not many people with chops out there.
I'd be like, hey, Rich, those conventions, I'm available.
Yeah, do you have room for a table for the guy with chops?
Oh God, yeah, right.
Yeah. And then you just see me there, like begging people, like I'll give you the autograph.
Yeah,
I'll be like, he's part of the Wolverine Insomniac League. You want this guy's autograph? You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Come on.
Well, they call me Flogan. They call me Fat Logan. So it's
there you go. So the right person might hear this, and there's a lockable skin for you in the game, maybe one day.
Oh, listen, my phone listens to everything I say anyway. Unlockable skin in Wolverine game, Fat Logan. Let's go.
Right?
Let's go.
Like that stuff with the phone listening is crazy too, right? Like it
happens every day.
Like the amount of times I could be like, I need a new mattress, and then I got new mattress ads on my phone for the next.
You know what though? I'll like think something, and then suddenly like there's ads, and I'm like, what the
fuck? that happened to me yesterday. I was literally thinking about, and all of a sudden my Facebook ads.
Oh my God.
It's
Get out of our brains.
It's the watch. It's the watch.
Yeah, I can't do the watch. The watch, I'm like, no.
The watch was a gift from the family. I never actually bought one. I love it now that I have it, but like I've learned that I don't use it like you're supposed to. I'm like, it's an electronic watch.
Watches
shows me tell time with it.
Well, it tells me the text messages, and I can answer a phone call if I'm like food shopping, and the wife calls. I can Dick Tracy it. So that was a selling point for me. Like, that's all I need.
Like, you grew up thinking like, man, that Dick Tracy watch was fucking cool, and somebody at Apple was like, yeah, it is. You know,
and it came out with the watch the first time, and it didn't work, and it didn't do that, and I'm like, I bought this for nothing.
My favorite watch moment. I love watches and stuff like that. Like that's like one of those things I grew up just loving, like a watch, like a nice watch. And I worked at a hospital for like 8-9 years, and I'm passing by. My watch is now broken at this moment. It is busted. And my phone is like in my locker and stuff like that. So I see a doctor, and I mean, he's got the long coat, the square jaw, the perfectly coiffed hair, and I'm like, I was like, yo, doc, what time is it? And he's wearing like a Rolex, like this really ostentatious gold Rolex. And he pulls out his phone. It's 10 past 11.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what about the Rolex? He's like, I don't know. He's like, I don't even know.
It's just not ingrained. Yeah, it's not even ingrained. Half people don't even know how to actually read like the dials on the on the watch anymore either.
Yeah.
Again, another topic for another segue. Like, dude, we can. It's like script not being in school, but that's the parent in me that's ending that part of the conversation.
It just goes to show in 10 years, you can, or even 5 years from now, you'll be able to fuck with everybody who's like 25 and under. Just write something in script.
Our own secret codes. It'll be great.
Nobody will know anything at that point.
What is this Illuminati nonsense?
Exactly.
That's what it's going to look like to them.
Oh my God. Wow. Yeah. But to get back on conventions real quick, and I want to point this out real quick for my actual job. It has been a very rewarding trajectory of work. You know what I mean? To see these
Yeah.
shows expanding, to see, I probably feel my worst at the end of every show. I'm tired, I'm beat up, and all that stuff. But there is no real higher than seeing like 100,000 people in a room enjoying something you put together. And I recommend for anybody, like, if you can do it and you're even remotely into the idea of doing that type of thing, like, do it, because that's an actual. I'm not a good do the same thing over and over every day. I'm terrible with that. You know, Monica's worked with me. She knows. She sees how haphazard and insane I used to be. And now, but to do something where it's like got a beginning, a middle, and an end, and then you can think about it next year is like kind of a wild concept.
That's awesome, and
I recommend it.
I'm happy to see you be able to do that, because again, not everybody can speak to it to that point.
Right.
A lot of people get to that part of their journey, and then they question their sanity, and it's like, is this really what I wanted? And it's like, you have to remember, it is a career, it is a job. At the end of the day, and we all have one thing in common: we have to survive, and we have to survive by working. But if you can do it by doing something that you love, why wouldn't you try your luck?
That's it.
So,
like it's the I like I just said, I worked in a hospital, and then one day family thing happened, lost a family member, and I was working in a hospital, so I was just like down, and I'm like, fuck it, I want to do something I enjoy. I love comics, I want to do that. I've been doing that like for fun for years. Let me make it the 9 to 5. And graciously, I've been able to have it be my 9 to 5 for like quite some time in different capacities, whether it be working for a comic retailer, whether it be doing something online on my own time during the end of that little 3-year end of the world span, or doing it now on like a really grand scale, and not knowing where that takes you and stuff like that, because you can never get too comfortable. You can enjoy what you do, but like if you don't have your eye on the next thing, you know what I mean, or at least even just contemplating it, then what are you really doing? I also tell you this hoping everybody watches an audio, because I've been drinking and smoking this entire time. So like, am I happy? Am I stressed? Which one is it? You know what I mean?
Well, it's still Thursday as of recording, so I mean, anybody would be in your boat. The only difference is I don't drink. Otherwise, this might be a special drink.
There you go.
I might have my Resident Evil beverages, but it's too much work to get them out of the box.
Mine's being shipped to me soon, so I'm really excited about it, because I won the contest to get like a couple. Like, you see the Resident Evil drinks, Rich? Like the little seltzers. So basically, they have it was like a collector's edition, and Benny got the collector's edition where it comes like in the box from like Resident Evil 1 remake, and then it has like the seltzer waters, which are what, like lime and cucumber and mint, I think.
Nice.
Okay. Yep. And then his came with like little ink ribbons, which inside had like the different herbs. They're all different flavors, and then you mix it. So he got all that. I just won a couple of the seltzer drinks from like a contest online, but I'm still stoked to try it. It's first aid spray. Yeah,
it's cool. I mean, I have nowhere to put it at this point, so it's literally in the box in the corner, and my kid's always like, "What's in there?" I'm like, "It's not a toy for you."
Yeah,
but it's cool to see them bring that stuff.
There's that meme of like the dad standing with his kid, and the kid's like, "My toys suck," and then the dad's like, "Mine don't."
I mean, if you couldn't tell, my kid spends a lot of time in here.
Look at all the toys we both.
I'm in my living room. Otherwise, I'd show you like all my paraphernalia, but it's like way the fuck over there.
I was hoping to see some of like your sign stuff, Rich, and like some of like your drawings and stuff like that.
I have a little stack here. I could show you.
Okay, I love.
But real quick before I do that, I'll tell you, I did find one piece of Resident Evil. I don't have it with me. My sister texted me a picture of like, oh, you still have this box of stuff in the basement if you want to do something, and in it is like the chainsaw controller.
Nice.
The GameCube or the PlayStation 1.
Oh, that's so great. That's a collector's item right there.
But no,
it's worth a lot of money.
I'm looking at the picture and I'm like,
I don't remember having that.
How high? You know what I mean?
Oh, spoiler alert! I wasn't high at all when I bought that. No, I tried.
Yeah. So
the difference is I never opened mine. Mine stayed sealed.
see, I'm really a mint and box guy. For like, I'll collect some toys. My comics, obviously, I get them all basically put in a nice little plastic coffin. But like video game stuff, I'm like, that's the one thing where it's like, I love it, but it's meant to be enjoyed. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, most of my figures I've taken out to play with them, but I bought them like a long time ago. And then like obviously the video games too. Like
My whole
yours are
wall
still in
is-
boxes. I mean, so I have a couple ones in boxes that I bought like about 4 years ago. So those are still in boxes. But oh wow.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah,
That's a collection.
not
Yeah.
something I show too much, but yeah, it's practically wall to wall. Mostly Spider-Man. Now that I'm looking, I'm like, oh, there's a lot of Spider-Man, and more Spider-Man.
Yeah.
I might
See,
like Spider-Man.
Yeah, a little
maybe.
bit.
I'd say my three guys I like collecting was always like Superman, Batman, Spider-Man. And video game wise, like I was always into Metal Gear Solid and Resident Evil. Metal Gear Solid's great. I wish I had some of those books I could grab because I've seen David Hayter so many times now.
I was gonna say, should bring him to the show if you haven't already.
He goes to a bunch of our shows. I think he will be at the Philly show as well.
Do you know what I learned about David Hayter the other day was that he actually was one of the writers on the X-Men movie. I had no idea. I was like, Snake wrote X-Men?
He's also the screenwriter on Watchmen.
What?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And for the guy that's into stuff that's not as popular,
Is it Guyver? Are you going to say Guyver?
he was, yeah, he was Guyver. He was Guyver too, all day. Love
What
it.
a fucking movie that was! I remember passing by that randomly in like 1997 on like HBO. Just it's just like, what the hell is going on here?
The second one is way better than the first one. The first one's kind of painful to watch.
The first one, first one's super fucking painful to watch. You know what I mean? But
the second one at least has choreography going on. You know what I mean?
Let me. I pulled like a nice stack. Now, what I opted to do is I grabbed bigger pieces that I have that aren't just comic books, but I did grab 2 comic books because they're some of the most recent ones I got. So awesome. I'm really big. My big collecting thing I do is the CGC stuff. So this is the first one I'll show you I got back. We're going to try and do this in a way we can see it. So this is my Batman signed by Pattinson.
Nice.
So
that's awesome.
I had to get that. This is going to be a fun challenge with the glare. Did you, Maka, or Benny, did either one of you read Doomsday Clock?
Yes.
I know of it.
Yes,
I have
did.
not read it.
Mm-hmm. I've read the whole thing.
I loved Doomsday Clock, but specifically, I am a nerd for Gary Frank art.
Mm-hmm.
So my buddy was able to score me this when he was in Italy. This nice Gary Frank sketch.
That's awesome.
That's pretty dope.
Hell yeah.
That's awesome.
On the blank and everything like that, which was great. Another person I've made friends with recently over the past couple of years is Bill Morrison. And Bill Morrison is a Simpsons artist. He's also responsible for multiple Disney movie posters you grew up loving, Lion King, Little Mermaid, all that stuff. So
the original Little Mermaid?
Original Little Mermaid. Yep. That
we'll leave it at that.
He has a whole story about it if you ever ask him and you ever see him.
Amazing.
So
Amazing.
of course I had to get a Homer Simpson.
Oh, sweet. That's awesome.
Right?
That's great.
There you go.
Oh, that's cool.
Love it. That's really cool.
Yeah.
I love the appreciation of the slab. I have to say I'm not versed in it. My co-host from the Toy Closet show, Paul, good friend of mine, gifted me my first and only slab of a Venom comic.
Oh, nice.
Which I'm grateful for. And I've been getting asked if I'm going to. My number one comic growing up was the first comic it was ever given to me, which was the Infinity Gauntlet #1. Which I won't go into a long story, but there's a lot of emotion that brings me to that. And when the movie came out, it was a lot of connective tissue. And like people like, you got to get it graded. I'm like, it seems like just such a process. But like now that I have a slab, I'm like, do I go through my books? Like I have a very small amount of comics left from my dad who passed like 15 years ago. So it's just one of those things where like it'd be cool to do that. You know, like I don't know the quality, how the condition work. It just seems so involved, and I commend you guys for like being in it, you know, like knowing that stuff.
Yeah, I think I've got about not even kind of stuff that's here that's just like art that's certified. I probably have close to 150 graded books now that are just like
Wow.
my collection and stuff. And we're talking I have a Tom McFarlane Venom sketch. I've got multiple Bagley things. I actually have some Bagley things. Just tons of like books that I'm just like that are like, oh my god, like how did this even come to be? Like I have a World Trade Center Spider-Man, the Spider-Man 36
Wow.
cover. It's signed by Scott Hanna, who was the inker, John Romita Jr. with a sketch, John Romita Sr. with a sketch, and Stan Lee.
Oh my
Wow.
god. It's
And that's a
crazy.
That's impressive.
that's a 9.8 graded book. And I'm just like, you know, John Romita Jr. saw a picture of it recently when I was with him, and he's just like, that's a lot of money there. And I'm just like, I'm gonna end up like when I die.
You're not looking at it like that. Yeah.
When I die, I'm gonna be getting buried like a fucking pharaoh. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Bury me with all my worthless
slab armor.
That's it. It's gonna be the World Trade Center Spider-Man, my Tom McFarlane sketch, and just that's it. You know. Let me. Do you want me to just blast through a couple more of these to show you? I think you'll get a kick out.
Let's do some more.
Yeah.
So I got this prelim Bill Sienkiewicz Superman.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Like this thing was like, I called up Bill. I'm like, my man, do you have any Superman stuff? He's like, I'm actually doodling something now that might be for a Zatanna cover.
Oh,
so
nice.
I grabbed that. I'm also a big fan of Sean Gordon Murphy. I was a big fan of
he did the White Knight stuff, right?
White Knight stuff. So here is one of his prelims for the White Knight.
Oh, wow. So nice.
And it's got this like New York City skyline in the bottom, which I love. Wow. So I got that. But this one from Gordon Murphy was probably my favorite, where you get the Batmobile.
Oh, so cool.
Right?
The best.
So I had to have that. And as a personal point of like, I want it. There's no Batman on it. So I had him do a Batman headset at the bottom.
He's like, fine.
He's in the background going, peekaboo.
It's a completely original Batmobile. And I'm like, yo, you throw a little Batman head on there? That'd be so really good for me. Let's see.
That's the little gas that needs to be in the engine to make it roar.
Exactly. My Bagley Carnage.
Ooh, sweet.
Right? Love Mark Bagley. Anyone who tells you he's not a definitive Spider-Man artist should be like fired out of a cannon directly into a brick wall. Another Bagley, actually, I grabbed. This is the other one. Now, this is a cheat. If you're ever trying to get a sketch and you have two characters you like, just say, hey, do half one side, half the other side. Works.
Smart.
The more you know.
The more you know. I'll teach you the ins and outs. Got three more that I grabbed here for you. Speaking of Infinity Gauntlet, but not anything from that run. But this is from George Perez's last signing.
Okay.
Nice.
So nice very original cool. Deathstroke. So
that's so cool.
I love it.
I was very happy with that. Like George Perez, man, what an artist, right? Like there's no book you could pick up from that dude that isn't like Wonder Woman, Infinity Gauntlet, Titans, Superman, Crisis, and not be like, nobody has ever looked at a George Perez book and said, that's fucking ugly. Never has happened. You know, it's like one of those things like water's wet, right? Gorgeous book. Walt Simonson. I don't know if you guys really know much about Walt.
But he did like Thor. He did like Thor way back in the day, right?
Beta Ray Bill. That's his dude. And then the last one I brought down, I thought I'd show off. Now I'm a big Clayton Crane fan. So Clayton Crane and I have worked on a few projects. Two covers of which we did for Midtown. We did a Black Cat one, and I did the Avengers one with Clayton.
Okay. I feel like I probably own the Black Cat one. I feel like I got that one.
So MegaCon, we're going to be debuting with Clayton. I did a reprint of Teen Titans #2. So the George Perez book, because one of my things that always bothered me on that, I'm like, Deathstroke's like in the back behind a tree. So now we have Deathstroke front and center on that. I'll send you guys a picture of it later. Maybe you could throw it up in like post. But I did get this Punisher War Machine
Ooh,
Sick.
by Clayton
that's
Crane.
insane.
Right?
Great detail.
What did he do? Like, was that just with like white marker?
It's like white marker and colored pencils.
Oh my god, that's
Yeah,
crazy.
just look at that arc reactor, man.
Right?
Yeah.
It's
I
really
always
awesome.
get tied into the gun here. How do I turn this in a way where it makes sense? Like, you can see,
I
like,
see it. Yeah, like the smoke and
Yeah.
everything. Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's really cool.
yeah. So
It pops without even needing to pop. Like it's just the way that he drew it.
Clayton Crane is like an artist, you know, and like even talking to him, he's like, "Do you know I'm celebrating 25 years in the industry this year?" And I'm like, "Fuck, God, I'm old." Like, you know, like I remember when you were just starting up, like holy shit. So, but I mean, this is like some of the perks of like when you get to like this level of working on these shows, working with these artists, being around as long as I have,
Right.
is just like, hey man, do you have any of these hanging around that I can grab off you? And it's just, you know, it's for a kid like me who grew up and at 4 years old saw my grandmother took me to this pharmacy and there was like a Superman figure there from the Superpowers line and bought it for me and then showed me my first exposure to like that stuff was like Superman 4 on like 4th of July 1990 or 89, and just from there to be like I get to meet and talk to all these people I grew up watching them draw these characters or create the Marvel universe or DC, and it's just because you know you look and you're just like I'm going to do this one way or another, you know what I mean? So you can never what you know, like the podcast being called Press for Time is great because you know you're here for a good time, you're not always here for a long time, so you might as well do what you gotta do.
Right.
So true.
But at the same time, make the best of it and you just have fun doing what you love, which is the name of the game. And I think that's a great way to wrap it up. And I really, really love all the stuff that you shared. The stories are awesome. And again, we get to learn a little more about, you know, a very popular industry that this aspect I feel is not talked about enough. And, you know, there's always good and bad, but it's really great to get insightful sides of it. And I do wish you the best in the continued trajectory of everything you're doing at Fan Expo. I look forward to attending the shows that I can get to, of course. I would love to get on a plane and go to Orlando because you get the better weather and you get an awesome con. So maybe next year that might be my my path. But I appreciate your time, Monica. You have anything you want to leave us with?
That's about it. I just really enjoyed hanging out. It's been a while, so
No, and I appreciate you being my co-host today. And Rich, again, we look forward to connecting with you again some more. We're going to have links to Fan Expo and MegaCon. Pretty much, you guys, if you're in the area, check out the show. Again, there's shows all around, and maybe we'll see you on the floor. So, with that said, everybody, take care and have fun.